They're saying advanced AI is about to replace every white-collar job in America, and I say finally. Let's tax the robots so we can be human again. Truth be told, I have never liked having a job, but I've always loved to work. For most people, these are the same thing, but for me, it's not even close. And the difference is what I'd like to explain to you in this video. Let me start with what I think we all already know. A handful of people, a genuinely small number, own the majority of the world's productive resources. The energy infrastructure, the supply chains, the platforms through which information moves, and the political machinery that is supposed to check them. And they are, by any honest measure, completely out of control. The temptation is to frame this as greed or corruption, and that certainly plays a part, but I've come to believe that it's something much more structural than that. What we are experiencing today isn't a failed system. It was engineered over 2 centuries to extract maximum value from human labor and concentrate the returns at the top. The problem isn't that it's failing. The problem is that they've succeeded. And most of us are only now beginning to see that we, the people, have been played as fools. So as advanced AI begins automating the cognitive workforce and replacing us as the brains behind a soul-sucking corporate mission to dominate the capitalist marketplace, why are we still asking, how do we save these jobs? The real question is, why were we even doing them in the first place? Mass unemployment is not a crisis for humanity. It's an evolution. What we're experiencing today is the logical conclusion of a system that has always treated human beings as a source of capital. The difference now is that automation makes the underlying motivation undeniable. And from where I sit, that undeniability exposes an incredible opportunity for humans to reclaim agency in their own lives. Consider my own past lives. The laser technician work I did at a photonics startup, aligning optics at a micron level precision. Computer vision and robotics do that now. The technical writing, large language models generate illustrated documentation in seconds. 6 years of chemical sales, relationship management, contract negotiation. I already have AI agents closing brand deals for my Bike Farmer channel without a human in the chat. But don't take it from me. You already know this is happening. You can feel it in your industry, and you see it in your feeds. The 12 richest individuals on Earth have more wealth than the bottom 4 billion. So let's just skip over the argument about whether or not it's happening and talk about what we're going to do about it. This is not a political argument. It's a math problem. When a machine replaces a worker, that worker stops earning. When they stop earning, they stop spending. And when enough of them stop spending all at once, the companies that built the machines have nobody left to sell to, and the whole system seizes up. And the people who own the robots know it. Sam Altman knows it, and Jensen Huang knows it. They have said out loud that some version of universal basic income is probably necessary. These guys are not radical Marxist lunatics calling for a top-down centralized redistribution of wealth. These are the architects of the disruption sounding the alarm because the powers that be seem to be asleep at the wheel. So the question isn't whether we need a new social contract. The question is, who writes it? And you guessed it, I do. Or you do. Wait, we do. Let's think this through together. How exactly does ChatGPT know how to write an essay? How does an AI agent diagnose a disease or draft a legal brief? It knows because it was trained on us, on the blogs we wrote, our expert answers on Reddit, the open source code we shared without compensation, the entire intellectual and creative output of the human species, ingested without our consent and without a single dollar paid out. We are the silent investors in this technology. Our collective intelligence is the training set. So when we talk about putting that money back into the hands of regular people, we're not asking for a government handout. We're making a collective democratic demand to reclaim what's already ours. That is not a radical idea. It's a royalty check. It's time to tax the robots. And here's how it works. If a machine performs the economic function of a human worker at a fraction of the cost, the extra productivity dividend goes directly back to the people, not captured entirely by corporate shareholders like it does today. That surplus value funds a universal basic dividend. And I know, as an American, it's heresy to even suggest such things. With authoritarianism rising and gridlock in Washington, it's a long shot. But we already see these systems working here with the Alaskan Permanent Fund or the sovereign wealth funds of other countries like Norway and Singapore. All I'm saying is the tools exist, the logic is sound, and the alternative, the free market with no floor, let the chips fall as they may while the Epstein class continues to lob morality bombs all over themselves, is genuinely worse for everyone. But solving the economic problem is only half the battle. The human problem will be the real challenge. Austrian psychiatrist and neuroscientist Viktor Frankl survived 4 Nazi concentration camps, experiencing human suffering few of us can ever imagine. What he observed was this: people can endure almost anything if they have a reason to, but they cannot endure comfort if they have no reason at all. A basic income floor solves the material problem of discomfort, but it does not solve the internal problem of what you do with your freedom. And that question, when stripped of the 40-hour week, stripped of the obligation to produce someone else's bottom line, is one that most people have neither had the time nor the agency to seriously ask themselves. That simple question, what do I actually value? Not what's legible on a resume, not by what's approved by the people whose acceptance I've needed to live, but what does a life built around who I actually am look like? In Western culture, what do you do for a living is one of the first questions we ask a stranger. What we're really asking is, what's your position in society? From childhood, we have been conditioned to become disciplined, active participants in a structured capitalist economy, and we identify with it. And when that structure disappears, when the robots make traditional social roles obsolete, millions of people will lose the meaning and purpose they need in their lives. They quite literally won't know what to do with themselves. And I personally know exactly what that feels like. At 35 years old, by society's standards, I was at the top of my game. 6-figure income, nice house, wife and 2 young kids. Then poof, sobriety, bankruptcy, divorce, followed by 3 soul-sucking years of job rejections that ended with a bike shop telling me I wasn't qualified to fix bicycles. By any typical corporate review, I'm a failure. I didn't want it bad enough. I couldn't hack it. Because of my conditioning, I can't help but feel it. But looking back, the reality is for me, I've never seen the point. And looking forward, before long, for many of us, there won't even be a point to see at all. I since have come to believe that every person has a rich and meaningful inner life that the corporate economy has been strip mining for capital gain for over 2 centuries. We all have a unique capacity for learning, creativity, and genuine connection. And these are the things that would become most valuable in a post-labor society. Not because they have productive capital value, but because this is what makes us human. Now, I'm not proud of my collapse, but I'm grateful for it. Because what came after it was the only thing I've ever done that was entirely mine. And at 49 years old, I have more agency and more satisfaction than I've ever imagined. Well, how did I do it? Funny you should ask. I rebuilt my life around my 3 core values: authenticity, creativity, and curiosity. I took a hard, honest inventory of what I liked to do and what I actually cared about, and found a place where those 2 things overlapped in a way that allowed me to work for profit, not for wages. And for me, the answer was bicycles, which, when I say it out loud, still seems like a ridiculous answer, but it was inexplicably undeniable. And I've spent the last decade proving to myself that level of authenticity is my superpower. And unbeknownst to me at the time, there's a philosopher named Ivan Illich who wrote Tools for Conviviality that argued the best tools extend human capability without replacing human agency. His prime example was the bicycle, the most energy-efficient machine ever built, and it still requires a human being to operate. A bicycle will never replace you. It can only enhance you. And I built my life around that model without knowing it even had a name. I'm convivial AF. But for me, fixing bike isn't just a business model. It's a way to improve my life. It's a proof of concept. A lifestyle business is when a person builds something based on who they actually are. It's really not hard for me to imagine a post-labor economy that makes this more possible than ever for anyone to experience this too. For me, it has felt like a rebirth, and boy, does it feel good. And this isn't the first time the labor markets have failed, triggering a rebirth of human activity. In the 14th century, the Black Death killed between 30 and 60% of Europe's population. The feudal labor system collapsed and a merchant class emerged. Capital became mobile and wealth was redistributed. During the subsequent Renaissance, the human experience was redefined through rapid advancements in art, governance, and science that laid the foundation for modern civilization. Now, unlike a devastating plague, the threat we face today is the sudden arrival of economic abundance. It's a different kind of disruption, but the structural changes are hauntingly familiar. A hierarchical system built on human labor is becoming obsolete faster than our institutions can adapt. And within that chaos, there's a genuine opening for rebirth. But only if we're deliberate about what we value most. My hope, and I say hope because nothing about this is guaranteed, is my grandchildren are born into a world where work is chosen rather than coerced. Where the measure of a good life is your level of authentic satisfaction. Where the question isn't, what do you do, but what are you working on today? So how do we get there? First and foremost, we all must reclaim our human agency immediately. You can't wait for the Tax the Robots bill to be signed by Barron Trump. You can't wait for the UBI to kick in. By then, you've already been left behind. Absolutely insist on enjoying your life today. Take the time to ask yourself, if the need to work for survival was removed, what would be left? What are my actual values? What does an authentic life look like given my actual circumstances, my actual history, and my actual self? Take an honest inventory. What are your strengths? What are your limitations? Where do those things intersect with something good in a way that is specifically, irreducibly yours? That intersection is the only place worth building from. Minimize your dependencies. Every expense that requires corporate income is a leash. I moved into my girlfriend's basement and spent a summer at my old bench in the bike shop, not because I had to, but because it was the only way to create room to maneuver. I discovered I needed much less than I ever thought, and that discovery changed everything. The thing about bikes for me is that I've always said I like fixing them more than riding them. While working that summer at the bike shop, I pieced together a cheap bike and started to ride it. Even as a novice rider with low gears and a comfy saddle, at the end of that summer, I pedaled myself up the steepest 1,000-foot hill I could find for no other reason but to do it. It took me 53 minutes, stroke after stroke after stroke, and it felt amazing. It was the machine combined with my authentic human curiosity and creativity that allowed it to happen. It was an honest day's work. Thinking back on that day, it's clear to me, not only is it okay to let the machines do the machine work, it's the morally responsible thing to do. For the first time in history, we can all be given the opportunity to do the work of actually being human. Now, like I said, it's simple. It all makes sense if you don't think about it. Tax the robots instead of working.